Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. DeShaun Foster, the UCLA Bruins making a late transfer portal addition heading into fall practice as former Michigan State, Wisconsin running back Jalen Berger committing to UCLA, joining this program heading into fall camp. And I think, my initial reaction is this makes a lot of sense for not only Jalen Berger, but UCLA, where you look at UCLA and say, hey, we feel pretty dang good about our running back one and TJ Harden. We had some question marks about UCLA in the depth at the running back position. And I think DeShaun Foster is going out and getting a guy that you talk about a quality depth piece in this running back room, a guy that's probably going to get 5 to 10 touches a game for UCLA. What better guy to add this late in the process than someone that's run for over 1,100 yards in the Big Ten, whether it's at Wisconsin or Michigan State. In the 2022 season, Jalen Berger was the leading rusher for Michigan State during that 2022 year. I think this makes a ton of sense, and I think it kind of speaks to how DeShaun Foster is managing this roster, where DeShaun Foster's been active in the transfer portal. It's not necessarily been the big splashes in terms of headline players, but he's done, at least in my opinion, a phenomenal job building depth within this UCLA program. That's a certain way you can use the transfer portal where, you can go out and get one big name, but you can also use the transfer portal to really add depth to your roster. I think DeShaun Foster has done a nice job of that all over this roster, but specifically in this situation, this one makes a lot of sense in terms of adding a guy that's a proven commodity in that running back room where there were just not that many proven commodities left. Want to get into Jalen Berger, talk about what he brings to this UCLA offense. As a Michigan fan myself, I'm pretty familiar with Jalen Berger. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the UCLA fans. It's been a blast talking this program since DeShaun Foster has taken over, whether it's on the recruiting trail, whether it's in the transfer portal. Appreciate you guys more than you know for rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Jalen Berger. And I want to start with just the upside that Jalen Berger brings, where you look at his collegiate career, his first 4 years. He starts off at Wisconsin. This is a guy that was a former 4-star prospect, one of the better running backs in the 2021 class. He starts at Wisconsin. He's behind a very good running back in Braylon Allen. He transfers to Michigan State, where in his first year at Michigan State as a redshirt sophomore was pretty dang good. Averaged almost 5 yards per carry, rushed for over 600 yards, led this Michigan State offense in rushing yards in the 2022 year. You go to 2023 last season, they bring in Nate Carter, who was a very good running back for Michigan State. Jalen Berger deals with some injuries, doesn't really get a ton of burn in the 2023 season. It kind of just trying to find a new destination, a new start at UCLA. Now, one thing is the upside's there, but I think more importantly, Jalen Berger is a proven commodity, a guy that you're not going to have concerns about him touching the ball 5 to 10 times as kind of an RB2 within this UCLA offense. And I think the second question is, what kind of running back are you getting with Jalen Berger? And I think to sum up how he runs, it's no nonsense. This is a guy that's 6'1", 215 pounds. He has a thick lower half. He is not necessarily the most elusive running back, the most quick twitch, but he's a guy that's just going to get downhill, and he's going to invite contact. Again, not a guy that is going to give you a ton of explosive plays, but he's going to give you some of those chunk carries. And on a 1st and 10, you talk about a guy that can make a 2nd and 8, a 2nd and 6 because of the physicality that he runs with, kind of keeping this UCLA team on schedule. I think that's the kind of running back that Jalen Berger can be. I think he can provide you some value in some of those short yardage situations. And I'm kind of excited to see what DeShaun Foster can do with the talent like Jalen Berger, where you look at UCLA, they have resurrected some careers at the running back position. My own Zach Charbonnet, as a Michigan Wolverine fan, he comes to UCLA and turns out to be one of the better running backs in all of college football. Former really talented kid at high school, dealt with some injuries at Michigan. I look at Jalen Berger and say, I'm not going to get up here and say he's going to be Zach Charbonnet going into his last year of college football, but there's kind of some reason to believe that Jalen Berger can be a very quality running back in the Big Ten, because we've already seen him do that at the Big Ten level, whether it's at Wisconsin or Michigan State. And to kind of round out this conversation, I kind of just want to pull up this UCLA depth chart and talk about what DeShaun Foster has done in the transfer portal, specifically building depth within this program, where you start looking at UCLA's depth chart and they're too deep, and it's so many guys that are seniors, redshirt seniors, whether it's guys that have been within this UCLA program or whether guys that they are bringing in during this offseason. I start looking at this UCLA offense and say, there's not a single guy that's projected to start for UCLA that's not going into their 4th or 5th year of college football, besides running back TJ Harden, who's going to be a true junior. And you look at UCLA and say, the floor is pretty dang high because DeShaun Foster's done a really nice job developing depth within this UCLA team. And I think it's a very similar story on the defensive side of the football, where you look at the transfer portal additions that UCLA made. It's not necessarily the top 20 guys in the country that were available in the transfer portal, the guys that are making the headlines, but you start scrolling down and say, what did UCLA do in the transfer portal? They brought in a bunch of proven commodities that have played a lot of college football. This UCLA team is pretty dang deep heading into 2024. And I think the addition of Jalen Berger, kind of just represents what DeShaun Foster has done in the transfer portal, where he's not necessarily making headlines, but he's just slowly and methodically building a very quality football program from a depth chart standpoint. Now the question is, does it all come together in 2024? We'll talk about that a little bit more as we do our schedule prediction and our deep dive into UCLA. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate all the support, and we'll talk to y'all later.